I'm literally doing anything and everything I can to make ends meet for my family. I'm doing construction on the side. I'm repairing fences for my landlord to offset the cost of my rent. And, I'm painting, people's addresses in front of their houses,
Man, I mean, what was that like though? Like, as far as,
it was
humbling?
Oh, yeah. When at one time, I was one of the most highly decorated E5s in the SEAL teams.
Yeah, man.
And then, they flew my family out to the White House and Pentagon for my awards ceremony after Ramadi. Wow. And then I'm delivering pizzas for Marco's Pizza, and I'm clearing out the drain at the back of the pizza place for my buddy, just so I can get an extra hour or two of minimum wage after I deliver pizzas until closing.
So we are here with a special guest today, JP Dinnell with Echelon Front. And I'm going to talk a minute about Echelon Front and what you're doing, but we also obviously, like we always do, want to go back on the journey. And we're all sitting here actually sipping on your signature drink, which I don't know about you, Darren, but you can't say you got a signature drink.
You know what? Watch your mouth, man. Tyler, do I have a
he does
drink
claim that like purple drink is his. He does say that that's his, but
drink.
Hey, you might have your name on the stadium over there in Arlington, but you don't got your name on the can that I'm sipping on right now.
Yeah, can we bring the man in? Can we bring JP in?
Yes, JP Dinnell. So glad to have you, man. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you guys having me here. And as you're making it super awkward and uncomfortable for me talking about my signature energy drink, I'm thinking about how many amazing things this guy has accomplished, but it's also unique how life plays out. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Echelon Front and the journey and everything else. I grew up with a speech impediment. I had to go through, I was in speech therapy all throughout school. Hated talking in front of people, talking in front of groups. I avoided it at all costs. And now that's what I get paid to do, is travel the world and speak to people about leadership and, just the lessons that we learned in combat and training and, and how you can apply these leadership principles to every aspect of your life. And then because of the partnership of Jocko and Leif, of what they created with Echelon Front, and then Jocko joining forces with Origin and then Origin Labs, and then they created Jocko Fuel and then his product line and then these healthy all natural energy drinks. And then I ended up with my signature flavor, sour apple sniper. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. I have a high school diploma and that's it.
Right.
This is in real life.
And that's why we want to go back. That's why we want to go back and tell this story because, could you imagine at the age of 8?
Whatever age you say, no.
You're going to have your own. You're going to have your own drink at some point.
Yeah. If you would have told me that a couple of years ago, I would have laughed. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not even possible. But I'm sure as you guys all know in this room, and especially with your career, opportunity arises and you have to tackle that. You have to get on that. You have to take action. And that's one of the things I've been really adamant about, making it clear when I talk to companies with everything that we do with Echelon Front. Nothing matters unless you take action. Yeah. Nothing matters in life unless you take action. And, one of the things my parents taught me at an early age is you can make excuses or you can make things happen. You can't do both. Mm-hmm. And, that's about taking action in life. And look what last year brought all of us. Yeah. 2020 was a weird year.
It was. Yep.
But you know what? There are people that thrived, and there are people that just barely survived, and there are people that lost everything.
Yeah. Right.
And I feel horrible for the people that lost everything. I truly do. But there are people in those same situations that decided that they weren't going to be a victim and that they were going to find a way to make stuff happen, and they did.
Right.
And it's about your ability to come up with a plan, decide what you're going to do, and then go forward and take action.
You just said it. Come up with a plan and then decide what you're going to do, and then take that next step.
Yes, right.
Take the next step. So we want to take the next step and go back in your childhood and there was a point in your life, I'm sure, that you became that person who took those steps and started being aggressive and proactive. But let's go back into your childhood. Where were you born, and how was the family dynamics?
So I was born in Sacramento. To be specific, it was Fair Oaks. I went to Del Campo High School.
I was born in Vacaville.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was there anything in Vacaville? Was there
Darren,
anything?
We're about to lose these two as they reminisce on.
No,
Hey, us as NorCal folk.
Yeah. You know someone's from NorCal. Like when I was stationed down in San Diego, if we'd be out at the bar or parties or hanging out or whatever, if you heard someone say, "Oh, hella," that's hella
what
cool.
did I say?
You just said it the other day, man.
We talked to somebody from
Hella
San
good.
Diego, and I moved to Fresno when I was 12, and we were talking to somebody, and he goes, "Oh yeah, from NorCal." I was like, "Well, sort of. I lived it, but like I don't say hella much." But that's because
so
I was
hella's a
too-
NorCal thing.
Is a NorCal deal.
Got it.
Yeah,
Like,
from the Bay, from Northern Sacramento, hella.
It makes no sense. Makes no sense.
It makes hella sense.
We say, I mean, in Texas, it's y'all, right?
Y'all.
I mean,
It's
Oh, yeah.
so, all right. So Sacramento.
So I grew up in Sacramento. I went to the same elementary school that my dad went to. I grew up in the same house that my dad grew up in, which was really cool. And then same elementary school, different junior high, same high school as my dad. Actually, I had some of the same high school teachers that my dad had, which was crazy.
Did you find out if your dad was a badass kid?
He was a badass.
Was he?
Oh yeah, he had a reputation, of. And my dad's always been a super hard worker, but my dad was one of those athletes when he was younger that he was all in on sports. He's a really good athlete. He was big. I mean, he was a big guy. I definitely didn't get those genes from him. I mean, he's always been like, he's 6'1", always right around the 230, 240 range, muscle, just a big dude. He actually has a picture of him and Dave Draper, the old blonde bomber, the old bodybuilder from back in the day. The two of them doing side-by-side bicep poses down on Muscle Beach, which is cool. He played semi-pro football. So I got that, obviously, that the work ethic from my dad and my mom. My mom's a super hard worker as well. They actually met in a gym, and my mom couldn't afford personal training. My dad was super poor, but he was a big dude, and she's like, "Hey, can you train me? I can't afford it." She's like, "But I can cook you meals." My dad's super poor. He's like, "Done." Right? But the funny thing is, my mom was a vegan or vegetarian at the time. I don't know. One of those unique people.
So you got me.
And,
and
he's just like the exact opposite, right? And so she had to learn, which I think was cool.
That is cool.
That to learn to cook for him.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that's how it happened. And then they eloped, they got married, and I came about, and then my brother and my sister, and we had a really good family, a really good upraising. We were in church all the time. My dad says that was his saving grace. He didn't end up dead or in prison, was in church. We did Christian Boy Scouts growing up called Royal Rangers. Every spring break in high school, kids were out partying. I was down in Mexico building houses for the homeless through Young Life, which is a youth group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'd go down there, and it was cool. My grandparents, they had property up in Northern California in the foothills, like Auburn, Meadow Vista area.
Beautiful.
So yeah,
Love it up there.
God's country up there, and so we would go up there, and I'd play Navy SEALs up there, and that's where it came from.
So it was early on.
7, 8 years old. My brother and I watched a documentary that had JFK talking about the SEAL teams, and it came back on, and we had my mom record that, and we literally watched that every weekend. We'd watch it during the week before we go to bed, and my brother Corey and I, we were just infatuated with becoming Navy SEALs. And so we'd go to the garage sales of all the Vietnam vets. We'd talk with them. We'd buy all their gear, all their camouflage gear, face paint, the old canteen belts, and the old, we had it all. And I had the old field survival manuals and handbooks that they used to issue out to guys. And, other kids were, playing sports and trading baseball cards and football cards and all that stuff. And man, I was learning how to paint my face the right way for the train. And I was building ghillie suits and survival kits, which is not normal for most 9 to 10-year-olds.
That's awesome.
But it worked out in my benefit, I actually, it was just crazy. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but then when I became a sniper and went through sniper training, and we were doing all of our urban sniper training and learning how to do that type of stuff, I flashed back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to do that when I was a kid, not knowing what I was doing was the right thing. So you can't tell me that God doesn't design us to do certain things.
That's right.
Nobody can tell me anything different, because I'm telling you, when I was a SEAL, And I wasn't the best SEAL all the time. I was good, and there's times I was really good at my job. But I was absolutely designed to do that. When that time of my life came about where I was in the SEAL teams, it was 100% what I was supposed to be doing.
So were you? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So were you shooting back then when you were a kid?
Oh,
were you?
yes.
Did you? Okay.
Yes.
How old were you when you got your first
but
weapon?
pellet guns.
Pellet guns. Okay.
Yeah. So here's a unique dynamic. My grandfather, that we were super close to on my dad's side. Well, both my grandparents served in the military. My dad's dad was an old farmer from Nebraska. Had his mom sign an age waiver so he could go into the Navy in World War II when he was 16 or 17 years old because he's like, our country needs men. A kid going that. And we don't even have men these days that are willing to act like men, but that's a whole other topic.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we can get there. I'll come back next week. And so... Anyway, so he did that, and my mom's dad, flew in the Army Air Corps. That was before it was the Air Force. And then he flew. He was a bomber pilot in World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War. And so I had that influence from them. But my dad and his dad didn't have a really good relationship when they were growing up. And my grandfather was a big hunter. And so because he was a big hunter, my dad was like, nope, don't want to do that. And so he never touched guns, never did any of that. So I never actually fired an actual gun until I went into boot camp.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right? I'd never touched an actual gun. Wow. The first time I'm shooting a pistol is when I'm on my third day of boot camp and they're screaming at me to shoot the Navy qual. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And you're screaming at me.
Wait.
My third day of
There's
boot
more
camp.
than one pellet in this thing?
Yeah.
I have to reload after every
how does
shot?
this happen? There's no pump on this.
That's like saying I showed up for my first college football game, but I'd never tackled anybody before.
100%.
That's amazing.
100%. Yeah. And I had a contract to go try out to be a SEAL after I got done with boot camp.
Already?
At my school. Yeah. So I went in with the contract to become a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
I had passed
Wait
all
a minute.
the tests.
How does that work? Okay, let's do this.
So we've gone like this. Let me get us back to the gun thing. So to answer
Guys,
your
we went all the way back to World War II.
Yeah. Shit, we can go back farther. So the guns I was shooting were pellet guns. And I actually was setting up urban sniper hides, and I would shoot at vehicles that would drive by.
At vehicles.
Yes.
So I knew you were a badass. I just knew it before I even brought you on.
It wasn't ever in the window. And so here's the deal. I know what I was doing was wrong. I'm not.
Sit at the window.
I've never shot the windows because
That was really good.
I at least had the wherewithal at that age to go, well, I could hurt somebody, but it's not going through the metal on the car.
Yeah.
So I would practice shooting vehicles.
Moving vehicles.
From an elevated position in my garage with all the lights turned off so that they had no idea where it was coming from. And there's a crack of this big. I'm not kidding. I propped up the garage door to where it was like that big, and that's what I was shooting at.
How accurate were you?
I was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
He's like, I
Did
didn't
you
shoot
miss the
windows,
part
but I
where he
shot
said he was a
gas tanks.
sniper?
Yeah. Well, not as a kid.
So
JP,
so as a young kid, you set up, these sniper setups, and you're shooting vehicles with pellet guns.
I know, it's so bad.
So you get into high school, and now you're kind of nearing the age. Okay, no. Let's go back. Let's talk about, the speech impediment you had in speech therapy and the impact that had.
Yeah, so I was in speech therapy all throughout elementary school. And, instead of getting to go to all the recesses, I would go to the special class and learn to talk and pronounce certain things. If I have a drink, like a shot, a glass of wine, a beer, it comes out big time. I will never be able to be like, if my wife's like, hey, have you had a drink? I will never be able to nope. It's just like, yeah. It's bad. It's horrible. And then it's really fun when you just make up words, because that's a cool trick that I have.
Yes.
So when I'm speaking on a stage, in front of O'Reilly Auto Parts with 11,000 people, and I'm just like, don't screw this up. Don't screw this up. But yeah, there's certain things that will come out that'll.
So how did that affect you though socially with friends?
Super awkward. I was very shy. I never made eye contact. And it wasn't until my dad noticed it, and I saw some of my friends from elementary school. We were in junior high, and I wasn't very big. I was, super short. I was skinny. When I wrestled in 8th grade, my son's wrestling. He's my bonus son. He's my stepson, but he's my son, right?
Wrestling's the best sport on the planet, by the way.
Yeah, and so he's wrestling this year, and he's a freshman, and he's wrestling at 162.
Yeah.
That's what he weighs. He's big. He's already like 6'1".
Freshman at 160.
And he's 6'1", wears a size 13 shoe. It's crazy. And I was laughing. I was like, yeah, when I wrestled in junior high, I wrestled at 89. They're like, 189? I'm like, no, 89. And then no one before that.
Yeah. And, that's not the smallest. Like, you get into, it's like, they go down to like 60 pounds in junior high.
Yeah.
The smallest weight class.
Yeah, so I was
There's
not
60-pound seventh graders out there.
I was not a big kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't tall, and I was super skinny. I mean, I was athletic.
Yeah.
I was powerful and, quick and, but I didn't have any confidence. I lacked confidence. Even though I was good at sports, even though I had a great family life, I lacked confidence because of the speech impediment.
Okay.
And it wasn't until my dad noticed it, and I remember him pulling me aside when we were leaving the mall, because I saw all my friends, and he's like, hey, why? He's like, why did you have your head down the whole time? You weren't making eye contact to any of them. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, come on, why? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just smaller than everybody, and I mix up my words. And then I don't remember exactly who he was telling me about, but he was just like, hey man, he's like, I can tell you that shit does not matter in life. And then he was like, Spud Webb, right? So he starts telling me about Spud Webb, right? And then I remember a bunch of athletes, that he was familiar with, and he was just like telling me about them, and he's like, I promise you, that's never going to be a restriction in your life.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then, because my parents were a little more mindful of it, they would make sure that they would, address it or talk about it, or just kind of like guide and coach me along the way. And then I got into high school, and I had good friends, but I wasn't like a popular kid. I didn't fit into a group, I played football because my dad played football, and he's a good ball player. And the coach was like, Dinnell, it was like my freshman year. He was like, Dinnell, you going to play ball like your dad? I'm like, no. Because I didn't want to play football. Right. I wasn't good at it, and I had no desire to play something that I sucked at, And it wasn't because I didn't want to get better. I just literally had no desire to play football. Yeah. And what was shitty about this teacher is because I didn't want to play football like my dad, he instantly was like, I don't like you. And my friends still to this day, they're like, remember so-and-so? I'm not going to say his name. And they're like, man, he was a jerk just because you didn't want to play football like your dad. Right. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, he obviously has other stuff going on in his life that he's that angry. Right.
Well, yeah, that's that important to him that
take it out on a small freshman.
Yeah.
Cool, you're a real man.
Yeah.
So anyways, went throughout high school, played my junior year, was on the team, enjoyed it. It was cool. It just... I did kickboxing. I did wrestling. I would go do adventure races. Kids are out partying. I would go hang out with my friends at parties. I wouldn't drink. And then I would leave, and I'd go link up with like my dad's friends that were, going for a mountain bike up in Lake Tahoe. And they're out partying doing that, and I'm riding a mountain bike until 4 a.m. on trails. It's just the stuff I liked. I did an adventure race when we were in high school. And I guess all that kind of started preparing me for where I needed to be physically to go into the military.
So did you know in your junior or senior year that was the next step?
I had not thought about the military all throughout high school. It wasn't until my dad was a little frustrated with me because I got into a fight at a party. I was defending my friends and myself, but it doesn't matter. I got into a fight.
How many times I've heard, JP, we've heard that story so many times. I've told that same story. I was protecting my friends.
Bro, so I'm not saying that for legal matters. I am saying that for legitimate. There's no way in hell I would have started a fight with these gangbangers.
Okay.
No way. Promise you. Right. Was not looking for that one. This is not one of those legal matters where I'm like, I was in fear for my life. I had no ways of getting away from this situation. I would like to talk to a lawyer. That is not the situation, buddy. I'm legitimately at a party. These gangbangers show up. All this stuff goes down. I get in a fight. Obviously, I'm not very good at fighting because I just shatter my hand. I'm still missing that knuckle, and I had some stuff going on in my wrist and everything. And so, anyways, I'm in a cast. My dad's a little frustrated with me because, my dad got into fights in high school, and that's kind of part of his reputation was being a badass. And he would get in fights at parties, and he never would start fights, but he also never was like trying to de-escalate. And that's one of the things that he says. He's like, man, I got in so many fights for no reason. He goes, because of my ego. Instead of me de-escalating or leaving, I was like, oh, cool, you want to fight? And then him and his buddies would proceed to whoop these guys, and then they would continue partying. And my dad, he's gonna be 60 this year, and he's still a big dude. And he's like, man, my ego got in the way. And anyway, so he just didn't want me going down that path because he knew what the path of partying and fighting leads to.
Yeah. Right.
And when my dad was in high school, and that you get in a fight in public or at a party, it's like, okay.
Different time.
In the 2000s, no.
Different time.
And now in 2020,
hell no.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
And so he, as a father, was just looking out for me. He's like, what are you going to do after high school? And, I thought about it, and I gave him the answer I'm sure no father would be super stoked to hear. I told him, I was like, I think I'm going to be a whitewater rafting guide and live on the river. That's what my best friend was doing. And
dude, on the Russian River, on the Truckee, man.
The American River.
Yeah, the American River, coming down from
50, yep. It's amazing. And that's what my best friend was doing. He literally, he camped all year long on the river. He
party at night.
Yep. And, he's a whitewater rafting guide with one bill, his cell phone. Like nothing else, right? And so I was like, man, that kind of seems like a good deal.
I can do that for 30 years for sure.
That's definitely going to be a good, solid career path. Wait, you have a lot of single girls that you take down the river? That sounds amazing. And, anyways, and my dad was like, yeah, probably not. What about the military, And, the other option was I was going to go into construction with my old man. And that's what he did. And, my dad and my grandfather didn't want me going that route because it's just long term, there's just a lot of wear and tear on the body, and they didn't want me doing that, even though I enjoyed it and I liked what they did. My dad pushed me towards the military, and I honestly hadn't thought of it all throughout high school. And so I go to work that night. I'm working at Steve's Pizza, and I look across the street at the recruiting office that we'd always go to when we were younger. We'd always go there to get the posters of the SEALs and the Marines and the Rangers and the PJs from the Air Force, and we had them all in our bedrooms and our garage. And I said, I'll go get some information just to kind of appease my father. That's all I was going to do. I took my break. I walk in there, and this is June, May or June of 2001, and they're all trying to be hard asses when I walk in there and be intimidating. They're like, what are you doing in here? What do you want? And, I just remember looking at I walk in the door like here, and they're all kind of off to my left. And I said, well, I'd like to join the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. I was going in there to get information, but it was that instant, they're like, what are you doing in here? Trying to push me back. Instead of me going, I would like some information, I instantly flipped the switch in my mind. I was like, I would like to join the Navy to become a Navy SEAL.
I committed right then and there.
It was weird. And I remember they all kind of started chuckling. And you gotta think about this. At this time, I'm about 135 pounds. I have bleached blonde hair that's dyed, I have puka shell necklaces on because that was cool. Hey, 2001 in NorCal, that was really cool.
That is it. Bleached hair and puka shells.
Yeah. That was the deal.
Go back and look at my wrestling pics. Every single one. Every single one of them. I think I wrestled a match with them on.
Dude, my water polo, I played water polo my senior year, and my water polo picture is bleach blonde hair, puka shell necklaces, because that was the deal, man.
Just a savage.
Oh, man. Speaking of water polo, I wish I would have played that all 4 years.
So I want to go back to these recruiters because, it's so funny, right? How perspectives change. You're this 17-year-old that walks into the recruiting office, and you're like, and I mean, granted, you reacted in a way that's like, nah, man, you're going to bully me around.
Yeah.
But you're thinking, these dudes think that they're such a badass compared to me. This stupid high school kid.
Yeah.
Now you look back, right?
Yeah.
The experiences that you've gone through, and I don't know what their military career was and what, but they got stationed as a recruiter, right? Maybe they actually went on deployments or whatever, right? And that was it. But you're like, I'm going to become a badass SEAL. The perspective shift looking back now.
So I had enough kind of awareness of the military to know like none of these guys are SEALs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, who are you to laugh at me?
Yeah.
You know, like, and another thing that my parents taught us is you never allow another human being to dictate what you can or can't do.
Absolutely.
You don't allow someone else to do that. Nobody has that control over you. I mean, how many people doubted you throughout your life and your career?
Yeah, all the time.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, you asked me like signature drink, like, you know, when you were a kid or you're in junior high and high school, like how many people did you tell or, you know, or talk about playing in the NFL and even in college and your career that kind of laughed or was like, oh yeah, cool, let us know, right?
Yeah.
And then also when you do it, they're like, oh man, I always believed
I always
in you.
knew that. You're bullshit.
You're like, you're full of shit. No, you didn't. You laughed at me. I have you on the list over here. I kept the list. You guys don't think I don't take lists?
Just crossing names out with lipstick.
It's not that. Not
Like
that
Billy
type
Madison.
of Billy Madison type. He's like, oh, that was a good phone call. He's done. No, but like, you know, I keep track of that.
Yeah.
And I always have, you know, and I've got my buddies, you know, and there was a core group that were like, dude, that's awesome. And then there was a good group of people that are like, man, you know, trying to talk me out of it, like they're protecting me.
Right.
You know how hard that is? Yeah, that's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you know, there's one other recruiter. He's an old senior chief. And he goes, hey, you know, two things, young man. I thought it was cool. He was super professional. He's this older gentleman. And he says, you know, the Navy's not going to do anything with that cast on your hand. We can't touch you. We won't even start the process. Two, the Navy SEAL wannabe recruiter, and that pissed me off. But he's like, the Navy SEAL wannabe recruiter, he'll be back on Thursday. So if you want to come back in 2 days, Petty Officer Garrett will take care of you. I was like, okay, this was on a Tuesday. I went in there. So I went back to work. I'm just thinking about it, and I was like, yep, that's what I'm doing. And so I was super excited to get home after work to tell my dad. So I get home, and then my dad asked me how work was, and I brought some cheesy breadsticks back from work and gave them to him because that was his deal. He loved those.
Wait, what pizza place was it?
Steve's Pizza.
Y'all have Mountain Mike's up there too?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Mountain Mike's is legit. And Round Table.
Yes.
Go back to the cheese.
Come on. So
What kind of cheese?
So I bring my dad. That was my thing. I'd always bring him some food after work, and he asked how work was, and I told him I was like, hey, you know, I want to join the Navy to become a Navy SEAL, but the recruiter said that I can't start the process with this cast on my hand. Like the Navy won't do anything. And my dad, he's just sitting there, and he goes, and he always, when he's thinking, he always kind of goes, he's like, how soon do you want to go? I was like, as soon as possible. Because in my mind, I'm like, if I don't, can I leave tomorrow? How does this work? Do I just pack a bag and show up? Like, I don't know. Like, is this like World War II where the bus picks me up? Like, well, how does this work, you know? And he goes, go in the bathroom, start soaking your cast in warm water. So I go in there, I turn on warm water, and I'm just like, just letting it soak, right?
How long have you had it on at this point?
Ooh, not long enough. 11 days.
11 days.
Broke the knuckle, fractured both the bones of my hand, and fractured my wrist. 11 days. Yeah, not like I said, not smart.
I'm no doctor, but that doesn't sound long enough.
Yeah, I'm saying a few holiday ends though, and so I made that professional decision. And so my dad comes in with some tools from the garage, and we cut my cast off. Man, I thought my mom was going to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was going to kill him when she came home because now my cast is cut off, and I can't even do this.
Oh,
I can't do anything with my hand. And I'm like, hey, she's like, why is your cast off? I'm like, oh, I'm going in the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. And she's like, what? Like, looks at my dad and like starts crying. You know, I was all upset, but she knew it was what I needed to do. And so anyways, so we, I go back to the recruiters 2 days later. And I remember I walked in and that senior chief like looked at me walking in the door, and he looked at my hand without the cast, and he said, Petty Officer Garrett's going to take care of you.
Damn.
And I just started the process, you know, and I told the recruiter, I was like, hey, I couldn't even like, I literally couldn't hold a pen or pencil tight enough to be able to sign my name. And so we were just kind of slow rolling the process for me to go get physically checked out, but doing all the paperwork. And, oh, something came up. He can't come here. He's got, missed this appointment. We're trying to get to where I could actually like pass a physical.
Yeah.
And so I started working construction with my dad, and we would take, some boxing hand wraps and wrap my hand real tight. And then I would grab a hammer, and then he would literally take athletic tape and duct tape and tape it into my grip to where that was like a part of my body. And that's how I would work 8, 10, 12 hours a day for my old man, doing this remodeling job on this house. And then as that got better, I was, pouring concrete and doing brick and block work and having to grip stuff.
That strength started coming back.
He would make me he's like, nope, one hand with that. And I'm like, oh, just like pain, just every single day, just my hand is aching. But we got it strong enough to where when I went through MEPS and got everything passed, like no issues. And then in boot camp, no issues at all. And my big thing, my concern was getting to buds with all the physical activity if my hand was going to be strong enough. Yeah. Dude, my dad did everything to physically and mentally prepare me for SEAL training. I mean, it was, I'll forever be in debt to him, and sometimes we get frustrated with our parents as we get older and they get older and they, and I think that's natural. Right. And I always try to remind myself, like, hey, they sacrificed everything for you in the first place, right? Right. And what my parents did for me throughout my career in the military, like, I'll never be able to pay them back. Like, I don't know how I will. And that was a start. It was my dad preparing me, pushing me physically to my limits. Where I was never, I wasn't crying, but like tears in my eyes from working so hard for him just screaming at me, yelling at me, this like carrying buckets of concrete around the house and then like literally making me run. Like I wasn't able to walk. Yeah. Like I'd have to run. I'd set it down. I'd have to run to the front and grab brick and block work. And I wasn't allowed to use a wheelbarrow for anything other than large loads of concrete. And it was just, I'd put, concrete bags on each shoulder and carry them and run with them. And he'd be like, all right, you're going to carry that next bag over here above your head, like log PT and stuff like that. And he was putting me in uncomfortable situations that whole summer. And then I'd go to the river and I would practice my swimming in the river. I'd literally swim upstream. That's how I swam. And I would practice my breath holds. I would dive down to the bottom of the river and climb myself upriver by holding onto rocks and pulling myself upstream.
So you're training. This is like
Rocky style training.
And that's like, you can ask any of my friends I grew up with in high school. They're like, he was insane with his training. I'd go to the river. Everyone would be there hanging out in the San Juan Rapids, drinking and partying. And I would be literally practicing my breath holds, swimming upstream. And then I'd pop up and then I'd float down and I would do it again. And it was.
Why do you think it was so important though? Why were you willing to put yourself through all that, do you think?
I committed to it. And honestly, I'd quit everything else in my life at an early age. My dad reminded me of that. My man. He was like, hey, don't quit this. Because every time I'd get frustrated in sports or something else, I would just quit. I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. I was a poor sport. I was a little shithead. Yeah. And my dad was just like, don't quit this.
If you got time, go back and listen to an episode we talk about quitting. Yeah. I mean, Ben's story.
That's me, man.
And now of the three of us,
he's the most
disciplined extremist about finishing
it does something
things.
To you, man. Yeah. When you're constantly a quitter, it does something to you.
Yeah. And I was. And my dad, I just remember my dad saying, hey, don't quit this. All right. And I was like, not going to. And I just, and I mean, my uncle was a PJ, which is an Air Force Special Forces pararescue. And I mean, he did 30 years. Yeah, he was a tier 1 guy. He worked out on the East Coast with some of those special units out there. And, I never understood why he always had a beard. I'm like, you're in the military, but you have long ass beard and hair. I don't get this. And then I got in the military. I'm like, you were one of those guys. All right, cool. Thanks for never telling me, jerk. Anyways, and so, he gave me some insight on training, and because he had worked with a bunch of SEALs and trained with them, and their selection process is legit. Right. I mean, because it's a lot of water stuff also, and people don't like the water. They're not comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so here's the other reason why I was going through I was putting myself in those horrible situations because I was claustrophobic and had a fear of drowning. Oof. And I know how hard SEAL training is when it comes to drown proofing and all that other stuff. So, just holding your breath still underwater ain't going to fix it. But I was holding my breath, literally swimming through rapids and pulling myself upstream and, pushing myself to the limits, which, I think back, I'm like, that's probably not super smart without somebody there.
Yeah. But,
by yourself. Huh? I also knew what I had to do. And at the same time, you're not always, people aren't going to be so fortunate in life to have somebody that's going to coach and mentor them along the way. Sometimes you got to figure shit out on your own and get to work.
That's a great point, because how much did you know about what Buds was going to be like?
Nothing.
At that point, it's not like you could jump online and
there was nothing
you
online.
can't figure out, right?
That special class 234 hadn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
That came out when I was in A school, like getting ready to go to Buds.
Yeah.
So
no idea, and that's one thing that I want people to hear. This is, you've just got to work sometimes, and you've got to prepare yourself for the worst, and over prepare, and this is it, because if you don't know, but you've still got to make movement. You can't have all the answers before you take a risk and go start and do this. Just go and just get it, and that's what it sounds like you did.
Yeah, and the other question I had for you, as we put a pin in the story for just a second, how important is it to put yourself knowingly and intentionally in uncomfortable situations?
It's critical if you want to achieve success in life. If you don't, then just float along in the middle, and that's fine, because we need people like that in life. I mean, we do, honestly. Let's be honest. We need
worker bees.
We need our worker bees.
Right.
But if you're listening to this podcast and you actually want to achieve something, not for yourself, but for your family and for your community and for somebody else, right? If it allows you to serve other people at a greater level, get your ass to work. Get yourself uncomfortable. If you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you will never achieve greatness in life. I promise you that. You never will.
Yeah.
There's very few things that I'm like, I'll put a stamp on it. That is one of those things where I can guarantee you, if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you'll never achieve greatness. I mean, you look at Jocko, right? The guy that I work for. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, the opportunity I have. I've been working for him since 2005. And we get done with one of our events. It's called The Muster. It's a 2-day leadership event that we host. They're awesome. And it's a lot, right? That whole week prepping. I mean, we're running on 2 to 3 hours of sleep, just getting everything ready. The PTs in the morning, the events. We get done with the muster. And that's usually when the team's like, oh, good. Like, we all kind of relax, do our thing. And I remember we were at one of them. It was the one that we did in New York. And I'm up in his room talking to him about, I came up to his room to talk to him about a few things. And he's sitting there reading everything. And I'm like, what you doing? He's like, no, I got to get this book ready. I have to get this book read so I can get ready for the podcast. Because he has a podcast out that is, pretty successful.
Avid listener.
Yeah. And, we get done with one thing and he's, boom, straight on to the next thing. Not relaxing, not shutting it down, just staying uncomfortable, staying in the grind. And I hate saying grind because so many people are like, oh, I'm out here grinding. You're like, no, you're not.
No.
You went to work. You did a job.
You're in traffic at 8:30 on your way to the office.
You did not grind at your 9 to 5. I'm sorry. Maybe someone doesn't like me now. That's okay.
It's okay.
A long list of people that don't. But Jocko literally grinds. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you guys know what it means. You guys
follow him on
grind.
Instagram.
I mean, I mean, but I just remember seeing that. And I'm like, dang, that's impressive. But there's a reason why Jocko has what he has in life.
Right.
You just change. You have to change what you're doing if you want to change your environment.
Yeah. And being uncomfortable is part of that, man.
100%.
Right. So you're in Buds, man. So when you get there, I'm sure you're sizing everyone up. And everyone's sizing you up at the same time. How uncomfortable was that situation?
So it was kind of uncomfortable. It wasn't too bad, though, because you're kind of like, okay, this is what everyone's doing. The uncomfortable part was seeing other grown men just scared, like terrified. I was nervous because this is the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. And I know going through Buds, the training, it's the hardest military training in the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's the hardest that there is. And I just, like, the attrition rate is so high. You show up, you see the line of all the other guys that have already been quitting. And, so yeah, you should be nervous, but nerves are a good thing. I have my phone off, but I don't want to butcher this quote, but I text a picture of Aiden to Jocko, Leif, and Cody before his first wrestling meet. And, you're just like, hey, getting ready to do his first wrestling meet ever, right? He's never wrestled in his life until his freshman year of high school. So it's going to be an eye-opener for him. And Jocko texted him back and said, hey, make sure you tell him those nerves are natural. That's your body's way of preparing you for combat. and it makes you perform, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, having nerves is fine. Being scared, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, seeing scared men was just weird. It was just, I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
You know, and so that was awkward for me. And then what was weird was when I had already been in the teams for a while and I was trying out for another group, and all the guys in there like sizing each other up. I'm like, guys, we're all in the same community. Like, what are you guys doing? But that was nerves.
That was nerves.
Yeah, that was that nerves again. And so it was weird. Yeah, for sure. Weird seeing other guys like that. But, you know, we started with 222 guys on day one. And when I graduated, I believe I was one of 28 of those originals. Wow. And, you know, it was cool.
90% attrition. That's
you know,
nuts.
you just, and you know, that's, you know, it varies from class to class. It's
Yeah.
usually 70 to 80%. And we just had a big class when we started, and guys get rolled back and, you know, whatnot. But, you know, we had guys roll into our class from the previous, but yeah, it was, you know, for me, one thing it taught me was like, you never judge someone by their looks. I mean, you look at me, like, especially when I was going into the military, like, oh, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. Everybody was like, okay, buddy, have fun, pal. You know, like, your parents here with you? Like, you know, nobody thought I would ever do that. And you see guys that go through training, and it's just, it shows you that the unassuming can do amazing things if they decide that they want to in life. And then as I've been out of the military and, you know, in the jiu-jitsu world and training jiu-jitsu, that's the other thing it showed me. I mean, some of the most badass guys I've ever done jiu-jitsu with, you look at them and you're like, look at that dork.
Yeah.
And he literally would be able to break every bone on your body while you're unconscious. And I'm not exaggerating. Like,
the truth.
Some of the top jiu-jitsu guys in the world actually live in this Dallas area that I have the opportunity to train with. They're at my gym, other gyms that I go cross-train at. And it's just like, they are super unassuming, but they are able to handle business.
Right.
And I'm sure you saw that in football as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you know, guys who you're like, and then when it comes time to performing on game day, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's training camp, right? You look at the guys, you know, look like Tarzan, play like Jane type guys. You see those guys. But I would say in football, the big, scary looking dudes, chances of them being big, scary football players are pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
You sort of know.
But you're right. In jiu-jitsu, I mean, I've met the Gracie grandsons a couple times out in Southern California, and they're tall, big guys, but by no means are they big, right? Like, they're just tall and long, and literally like that would put you to sleep.
Yeah, I was at a gym yesterday, cross training. I got invited to come train with their pro team. I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be here. But then again, I'm going to go take that opportunity.
Be uncomfortable.
And yeah, I was like, this is super. I was driving there. I'm like, hey, Dad, you're going to watch me get my ass beat. Just preparing you. It's going to be an hour and a half of me getting my ass beat. And he's kind of chuckling. I'm like, oh, I'm being serious. Like, this is not me trying to be humble or anything. He's like, oh, okay. And my wife, even before she left, she's like, hey, Patrick, make sure he doesn't die, because these guys, you know, I'm like, thanks, honey. Appreciate it. But she had come and, you know, same at my gym, right? Like, when I train, when we have Saturday comp classes, or, you know, if I get a role and train with the black belts, it's like, dude, I am in a world of hurt. But I love the opportunity to be able to train with that caliber of people, because it keeps me uncomfortable, which, when you are uncomfortable, it keeps you from being complacent. And complacency kills. It kills everything that's great in your life. It'll kill your marriage. It'll kill your relationship with your kids. It'll kill your relationship with your family, your community. It'll kill your business. I've literally seen complacent leaders allow multi-million-dollar companies completely fall apart because they got complacent.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the military, we'd always say, you know, the disease of victory. You know, when you're doing really well, you have to be careful of the disease of victory creeping in, because that's when guys get complacent, and that's when guys get injured and or killed in training and in combat, because it's the whole like, well, we've always done it.
That's right.
It's not going to happen to me. No, you can't allow that to happen. And so
you're in Buds, you're going through and you graduate, but going through it, and when you entered as a SEAL, what was what was the fact of the SEALs that attracted you? Was it looking forward to combat? Was it looking forward to the team atmosphere and the strategy and just the complexity of the missions that you guys would be on? What was it? I mean, was it the patriotism? What was it that really drove you that way?
That's right, because it was 2001, right? So this is like 9/11 is...
9/11 hadn't happened. I was in my sixth day of boot camp when 9/11 happened. I left for boot camp September 5th, 2001. So the draw to the SEAL teams was simply that that documentary that we had watched, and because I have that big fear of drowning, I always did swim team and or water polo or something in the water. I'm a very strong swimmer. I'm comfortable, but the fear of drowning is just crazy. Like if even still now as an adult, I'll be 38 on St. Patrick's Day this month, and if, we were all hanging out at a pool party and if you guys started roughhousing the water, like I get out of the pool or get away from you because I don't want to get drawn into it. And like, dude, my best friends that I was telling you about, like Steven and Tyler and Dane and all those guys, the guys that I was like, hey, is this, they're like, dude, that guy is legit. Go on that show,
Right.
And like, we'll hang out around the pool and they know they don't mess with me in the water because I turn it on quick or I'm like, hand on throat, I'm holding you underwater. Like, don't play fight with me in the water because I have that immense fear of being drowned. And they always mess with me. Like, Steven, he's a big boy. He'll like come to me. I'm like, what's going to happen, bro? It's like, I'm just playing. We ain't going to do that. Because we've play fought, like, where it's like, hey, man, okay, if we're going to play fight in the water, here's our rules and regulations. Right. We don't do this or this because then I'll just freak out. I'm sorry. You're my best friend. I love you. And, but anyways, it was just putting myself in those uncomfortable situations, and I really, that's why I did all the swim team, and that's what drew me to the SEAL teams. Sorry, my TBIs took me somewhere else.
No. All good.
I was trying to say words.
We all three have.
Bring me back.
Words,
water,
lamps.
Uncomfortable lamps. That's a really cool plant up there. Oh, the SEAL team. Yes. It wasn't anything other than just what I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, because the Army, they're amazing. Marines, they're the most elite fighting force the world has ever seen. Yeah. Let's be real. And the Air Force, amazing as well, right?
Yeah,
and so all the branches have amazing people, amazing units. Some of the most amazing humans I've ever worked with was on our deployment to Ramadi in 2006 that were soldiers and Marines that were just grunts, right?
Yeah.
And some of the most amazing humans, and so it wasn't like, hey, this is better than them. It was just what I knew and kind of what I wanted.
So when did it begin for you to be specific in what you were doing as far as a sniper is concerned?
So that didn't happen until I always wanted to be a sniper. When I was in my first workup and deployment, I did a lot of work with the snipers to try to learn and just be around them. My thing I've at least been able to learn, at least from an early age, is nothing is owed to you and nobody's going to give you anything.
Right.
And so that's how my opportunity with Jocko and Echelon Front came about, is because I know the mentor seeks out the mentee. Right. I'm sorry. The mentor does not seek out the mentee. Right. You have to seek out those mentors in your life, and you have to show your worth and prove to them why is somebody going to allocate time and resources to you? Why? What's in it for them?
Right.
And what is in it for the future? Like, what are they building up? And I at least knew that at an early age. And I knew that I needed to provide value to the sniper. So I was always like, hey, what do you need help with? And just asking them questions and helping them, just whatever I could help them with. And when we came back from our first deployment, we knew our leadership just had this feeling that we needed a lot of snipers trained up in case we went to Ramadi. And so I got picked to go to sniper school. And before I could even raise my hand, when they're like, hey, we need, guys to go to sniper school, this is how many guys we need. Like, before I could even raise my hand, it was like Dinnell. And I was like, yes, yes, thank you, Lord. And I went through a short NSW type of sniper course that was put on by the snipers in our training cadre at the time. And it was awesome. I mean, these guys are legit. One of them, his name is Charlie Melton. He's been out for a while. I want to say about a year ago-ish, I think he broke some world record for long-range shooting, and he lives here in Texas too. And so he was just, awesome. I was able to be taught by really good instructors, and Chris Kyle was my counterpart. So when we deployed to Ramadi, Chris Kyle was a point man and lead sniper for Charlie Platoon under Leif Babin.
Right.
I was a point man and lead sniper in Delta Platoon under Seth Stone. And Seth and Leif worked under Jocko. So Jocko was our task unit commander.
Right. Got it.
In charge of those two groups. And so I got selected to go to sniper school. I performed very well. We did our workup. I continued to perform very well as a sniper. It's just one of those things that's weird. It naturally came to me. I can read terrain and wind and everything and just make adjustments in my mind and do it and be on target. Like I can do that faster than technology today with stuff. It's weird.
Wow.
Again, it's a God thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
telling
a gift, huh?
Like it is an absolute God thing because like I've taught long range shooting since I've been out and helped out other people with the courses that they have put on. And I'll just be like assessing everything. And I'll tell my shooter like, hey, hold 2 minutes to the right. And the other instructor will be like spotting. He's like, nah. And they'll make their call. And I'm like, just hold 2 minutes right. Trust me. Like I'll just look at my shooter and be like, trust me. They'll do what I tell them to do. Boom, dink, dead center.
Yeah.
And then the other instructor is like, okay, because they're going off this data that
This big graph sheet, right? It's like,
they're like, with all the barometric and the out, all those things come into play when you're shooting.
Right.
And I know that, but for whatever reason, I can just read it.
There's an intuition to it.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. And I'm not that good of an instructor. Like if you're to talk data on like all the specs on long range shooting, I'm like, bro, I have buddies I can connect you with. Right. I can shoot decent and I can teach you how to shoot decent. But if you want all the details of long range shooting, I ain't your friend. Right. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to waste your time. It's just weird. And so I naturally had that in the workup. But again, I had good mentors. I had good friends that were teaching me. And I wish I could say their names, but they're still in. I mean, these guys are legends, like with what they've done and what they're going to do. And Chris Kyle was one of those guys. And so if you've read his book or watched the movie, they tease him about the young sniper that was catching up to him. That was me when I was 23. That was me in Delta Platoon. And so just, again, unique opportunity, right place, right time. But I also had a team in place that allowed me to do that. It wasn't like I was going out on my own as a sniper. No, I had Mikey Mansour, who got the Medal of Honor because he jumped on a grenade that was tossed on a rooftop, and he that was on September 29th, 2006 is when he died. We were packed up, ready to go home, right? He was by my side every single mission. I was our point man. Guess who was right by me with the machine gun? Mikey, right? So I wasn't able to do these things without the support of other people. And that's another thing that people need to understand. And, we talk about being uncomfortable. You'll achieve nothing great if you're not willing to be uncomfortable. But I'm telling you right now, you will also achieve nothing great by yourself. If you're not building up a team, if you're not training a team, if you're not equipping a team to be able to do what you're doing, you're failing yourself, you're failing as a leader, and you're failing your future. Because you cannot achieve greatness by yourself. I don't care.
That's so true.
Show me one person that has.
God, so true.
They haven't.
I mean, think about just your
so
story,
true.
right?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about your dad, your mom, your grandfather,
aunts and uncles.
And then your instructors. I mean, even that recruiter. I mean, all these people that had an influence that got you to where you were, performing in the SEALs, and then obviously the next chapter of your life that we'll get into here in a little bit. But I mean, the mentors in that aspect. So as you went on three deployments, correct?
Just
okay.
3.
Now, how old are you at in this time frame?
So when we deployed to Ramadi, I went home on pre-deployment leave in March, and I turned 23. And then we deployed to Ramadi, and our lead sniper, our point man, and they put me in a position of leadership as our leading petty officer at the age of 23. Jeez. I was the youngest and most junior ranking guy in our task unit, and then now they put me in charge of a group that went out to the eastern side of Ramadi. We were operating out of a forward operating base. It was literally a blown out building. So if you took this building, you just blew out all the walls and had everything
That's
exposed.
the one we were talking about on an extreme ownership, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And so we lived at this old blown out building that we built up, and we were working with these soldiers and Marines on the eastern side. The rest of our platoon and Charlie platoon stayed out at the big base on the west, and we just coordinated our attacks and worked together. I was 23 years old.
So so you're getting missions called when you're out there being deployed. Was there and I'm sure there's a level of nerves. And I don't know if I want to say fear, but like obviously it's very real. Like every mission, something
nerves,
could go.
There was never fear.
Okay, so was that because of training, or is that because
that was training, my leadership, and my faith?
Okay,
faith number one.
Yeah,
obviously I said it last, but my faith, it was my faith. Because I knew that if something happened, I knew where I was going. I knew what was happening. I'm going to heaven, and I'm going to be living a really good life.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't want that to happen because the pain that it puts on your family. Yeah. But I expected it. I actually prepared myself for that because we knew where we were going. I mean, and that's a good thing that Jocko did as a leader is he told us the truth. He didn't try to protect us and not tell us the truth. He told us the truth of how horrible Ramadi was, of how violent it was. There was 4,000 to 5,000 enemy fighters in that area that we were headed over to.
Jeez.
I mean, they had complete control of that city. They were flying these insurgent fighters were flying their flag over the capital in Al Anbar Providence. Wow. They had complete control. Right. The local populace would allow them to do whatever they wanted because if they didn't, they would come back and they would rape, torture, and then murder the family. And so guess what the rest of the populace started doing? Whatever they wanted them to do. Right. Because they couldn't do anything. They literally could not fight back and do anything.
How hard is it? And look, I'm not saying we don't have issues that we need to resolve here, but how hard is it for you to see with your own two eyes what can be done to them by terrorists, right? And then you're home and you're like, guys, we have it so unbelievable
good.
life.
It's ridiculous how good we have it.
And you spend your time and effort complaining about, they believe this or they believe that, or no, I'm right. I need to be able to use this bathroom or that bathroom. And it's like, those are the efforts that we're doing when we have people all over the globe that are being raped, murdered, enslaved. And you saw that with your two. How do you handle that here?
It's hard to control my emotions when I hear people complaining about the stuff that's really not stuff to complain about, or just people wanting to be a victim or wanting to be offended about something new. I mean, really, Mr. Potato Head? We're offended by Mr. Potato Head right now? Seriously, think about that. Man. As a society, that is a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
If we're able just to be like, hey, I'm really offended by that star up there. That star bothers me. Take it out, or I'm not doing the rest of this podcast. And people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Look, you know what? You want me to take my Super Bowl helmet out of here too?" No, it's ridiculous. People are so easy to just conform that they don't understand how dangerous of a place that is for our society to be trending towards that way.
The disease of victory, right?
Yes. Yes, it is the disease of victory because we have it so good in America.
Yeah.
We have it so good here. And I've seen areas where it was completely like when you hear war torn areas, like I've seen that. I've seen where buildings are rubble and people live there. People live in those buildings still. People don't have running water. They don't have electricity. They don't have any of these things. They go to the bathroom in their front yard in a hole that they dug, right? And that runs out to the street that's in front of their house in their neighborhood. Right. We'd be walking there, we would plan our routes around areas that we called Shit Creek because it was flowing with human feces from people's yards. And that's the neighborhood that they lived in. Could you imagine? People freaked out when we had rolling blackouts here. Yeah.
I was literally going to bring it there.
My Facebook groups that I'm on for the neighborhoods we live in, I would get, I'm like, nope, not going to reply.
Nope.
Don't do it.
My favorite in those Facebook groups is, he was walking his dog without a leash. Are you kidding me? Do you know the damage that dog could do? And
one of the ladies of mine was complaining about construction happening at 7 a.m. on Saturday. And I was just like, well, they're allowed to be doing construction this early because it gets dark earlier.
Yeah.
And the heat of the day is pretty nasty here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and then I find.
By the way, lady, I've been up for 4 hours at that point, so that's your own fault.
Yeah. Sorry, your life is lame. But but I added, I was like, aren't you really thankful that we live in a nice neighborhood that has construction going on?
Yeah.
And I just left it at that.
Yeah.
And
You should have just put like a picture of Shit Creek on it.
I should have.
That's what you should have done.
No, I
man.
should. You know what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start posting pictures
Yeah.
of like the Overwatches
They're gonna
I
be
was
offended.
on. I don't care. You can cancel me.
Put
That's
shit
fine.
on there.
JP has
What
been
are you
canceled.
That is a horrible. Yeah, I know. That's where people lived. I'm sorry. Someone's doing construction next
we
year.
need to treat human poop equally. They cannot.
Ridiculous.
Oh, goodness.
So let's talk about, because I know we're running up against the clock, but let's talk about your transition.
Yeah.
Because this is an incredible story of how you found what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Transition's something we talk about a lot, going from football, nothing near the transition you did. But it's tough, man, when you've got something, that goal that you've worked for so long, and now you got to figure out what's next. So
Well-
talk to us about your transition.
Well, first off, when you say it's not as tough, that's not actually accurate, because any transition is hard. Because what's hard to me is not hard to you. What's hard to him is not hard to me. And so, but it doesn't take away from the hardness that somebody has to deal with. And transitions are rough, and Jocko has a great video called Rough Transitions. And it's just a short little video, and it's just, talking about the transitions and showing pictures and videos and everything. And, I mean, every time I watch it, I get teared up. And Dave Burke, one of the other instructors on our team, he does too, because part of that, Echo Charles puts a video, or there's a picture of me and my wife. It's when we gave birth to our twin daughters. And when I transitioned out of the military, it was a rough transition. And the reason why is because I failed to establish a new mission. And as humans, we're all driven by missions. Right? I mean, when you were playing sports, that was your mission. When you got out, I don't know what your new mission was, but whatever it was, that's what drove you. As humans, we're all driven by something. We call it the why, right? The why drives us. It drives our actions. What people fail to establish is, okay, what am I going to do to accomplish the why? The part that they also miss is how. Like, how are you going to actually accomplish that? And I failed to do that. I got out. I was transitioning out, and I had the opportunity. Like, met guys at the gym. I started training MMA because I wanted to start fighting MMA. I figured that would help me with my transition out of the military, and I just was always drawn to that sport. And also because my dad was as well, and it was kind of one of those, I want to make my dad proud. I want to fight MMA maybe. Right. And got at the gym, owned a financial company. He was in charge of sales, and he told me, he's like, hey, this is what we do, and this kind of how we do things. And it made sense. It was so simple. It made sense. I'm like, I could sell that. That's pretty cool. Right. And, it's finance to trucking companies. Basically, if you had a delay in pay, we bought that invoice. We gave you a certain percentage up front.
You worked at Triumph?
No, but I know Triumph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it was one of Triumph's competitors.
Okay.
And I got to know Triumph very well.
Okay.
And so, it was called factoring, right? And so that's what I was selling. And what I thought was cool is, my main clientele is trucking companies. So I'm like, I'm pretty blue collar. I have a high school diploma, and that's it. I was in the military. I can do this. I can talk, right? I can talk to these guys and gals and probably relate to them, because truckers keep America going. Without trucking companies, we're screwed, man. We really are. And so I believed in it. I thought it was super cool, but it wasn't. What I needed to be doing. Right. What it was a Band-Aid, because I was getting out of the military, and it was a Band-Aid. It was wound care, right? I was taking care of the wound, but I wasn't healing that void. I wasn't filling in the gap. And, I was doing well there. I ended up becoming a sales manager. We did pretty well. We did some pretty good numbers. My team was awesome. I just implemented a few basic things I knew from the military, tweaked some things. They were already rock stars. It wasn't like I came and fixed anything. Right. They were doing good. We just did really well. And then I just made an emotional decision, and I left because I had that void, and I saw where the company was going. It was ego driven by another owner that forced the other two good owners out, and I was like, this is not a good situation. And I got out. I left. I quit. I gave my notice, and I said, I'll stay on as a broker if you guys want me to. I'll take care of my clients and make sure that they stay with you guys, but this is what you guys are going to pay me. Negotiated that deal, left, started my own consulting company. I was teaching shooting and tactics to law enforcement and just trying to help the law enforcement community because they don't have the training that they need. They don't have the funding for the training that they need. That's what people don't understand. I was working with companies in the area. They would donate money, and I would use that money to provide training to law enforcement, at no cost to them. Right. What a lot of people don't know is, like, if a law enforcement officer wants to go shoot, they actually have to pay for the ammo and the range time.
For their own?
Yes.
No way.
So
wait a minute.
Wow.
So their own pockets.
Yes,
There's not. I mean, the
most. It's very rare that departments provide the ammo.
That's amazing.
So I was talking with these sheriff officers and some police officers out in Colorado. And this is what kind of drove me to, like, I need to do something to help. I was like, how often do you guys shoot a year? And the guy was like, 50 rounds a year. I'm like, you only shoot 50 rounds a year? He goes, yeah, for our requal. I'm like, what? He goes, and they take that ammo out of our paycheck.
No way.
That's crazy. That is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't fathom that.
I know.
That's 15 minutes at the range.
Yeah.
Max. That's insane.
Yeah. So they would only shoot what they needed to shoot for their requal, and their agencies or their departments were taking that ammo cost out of their paycheck. So this is a very real thing. There's an issue with There's an issue with training, law enforcement, and Jocko's very boisterous of this as well. And this is something we can talk about on another podcast maybe. But jiu-jitsu training and combative training and de-escalation training and force-on-force training, a lot of departments just don't have it. And because they don't have the budget for it. So anyway, that's what I was kind of trying to do. And, I was trying to build that up and started an apparel company. I know it's super original, veteran t-shirt company. Yeah. First of its kind.
Ever.
Nobody's ever done this, guys.
No one has ever done that.
Maybe rolling in the dough. Nope. Didn't work out. No, I still have it. I put it on the back burner because of what I do with Echelon Front. But so anyways, so that summer I'm literally doing anything and everything I can to make ends meet for my family. I'm doing construction on the side. I'm repairing fences for my landlord to offset the cost of my rent. And, I'm painting, people's addresses in front of their houses,
Man, I mean,
anything and everything.
What was that like though? Like, as far as
it was
humbling?
Oh yeah. When at one time, I was one of the most highly decorated E5s in the SEAL teams.
Man.
And then, they flew my family out to the White House and Pentagon for my awards ceremony after Ramadi. Wow. And then I'm delivering pizzas for Marco's Pizza, and I'm clearing out the drain at the back of the pizza place for my buddy, just so I can get an extra hour or two of minimum wage after I deliver pizzas until closing. And then... come home and I'm fulfilling t-shirt orders until 2, 3, 3:34 in the morning, get a little bit of sleep, wake up, help my wife with the kids and do our thing and go teach somebody a private lesson for shooting. And, people are like, oh man, I'd love to shoot with you, but I can't really afford it. I'm like, well, what can you afford? And they're like, oh, this. I'm like, done. Because it's like, hey, cool. If you can't pay what I charge, I'll take whatever.
Right.
And I was literally doing anything and everything to just provide for my family. And, my wife was as well. She was doing everything she could with her business, and the business wasn't doing very well.
What I want to talk about a little bit? This is not specific to you. I mean, we have so many that serve this country that come back.
Oh, yeah.
And don't have, or going through the same transition.
Yep.
And are going through these same type of issues that you're going through.
Yeah.
That you just described.
Oh, yeah. This is a common thing. But it's not just for veterans. Think about law enforcement, they get out. What do they go do? Firefighters, they retire, or they get out. What do they do? College athletes. Yeah. Everyone's going to make it to the big show, right? Yeah. And they don't. What do? Professional athletes, they think they're going to have a 20, 30-year career. Yeah. What's the average career for an NFL?
3 years and a half, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. That's right.
Yeah,
3 years, 3 games.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's the average. What do they do afterwards? People aren't taking the time to be strategic with their lives. And if we fail to plan, we're going to fail in life. And that's what I did. And you know what? I paid the man. I rode the struggle bus. And I did everything I could to make ends meet. I had an awesome opportunity. My buddy calls me up. He's like, hey, man. It's so funny. He's like, hey, what's your schedule like this summer? I was like, well, let me check. Hold on, man.
Pretty booked up.
Yeah, hold on. I can move some stuff around for you, Kevin, if you need me to. What we got going on? He goes, Michael Bay is looking for some SEALs to be extras in the new Transformers movie. You'd be an extra playing a SEAL. And I I'm not going to say what I said to him in a reply because I thought he was messing with me, right? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, dude. With some other stuff in there. Right. He's like, all right. He goes, I'm being serious, dickhead. Like, if you want to be a part of this, give me this info. I'm like, call him. I'm like, you being serious? He's like, yes. And excuse my language, I'm sorry, but that's just Kevin. Man, right? That's how we speak. Unfiltered, brother. That's straight up Kevin. Kevin's just like, hey, you know, I'm like, call him. He's like, he's so awesome, man. He, anyways, so he's like, I need some pictures of you and your kit. You know, these are the type of looks that I need. Send it over. I'm like, cool. Send it over. Don't hear anything. I'm like, great. So then I'm helping out this guy with his training company. I'm driving down to Alabama, helping him build out his training company, driving back and forth, you know, just trying to make that happen. Good guy, good vision. We just didn't align, and I failed, you know, on a few things. I dropped the ball on some stuff, and we parted ways. And you know, then the movie thing came about as an opportunity, and he's like, hey, no, actually, the advisor's wife calls me. And she's like, hey, Michael Bay loves your pictures. He wants you, you know, to be on the movie. Can you be on a flight tomorrow to Detroit? And I'm like, I am 5.5 hours away from home at this point. And it's in the evening. And I'm like, give me 5 minutes. And I called my wife and I said, hey, here's the opportunity. And she's like, cool, done. When do you leave? I'm like, tomorrow morning. She goes, all right, what do you need me to start packing? And so she starts packing up all my stuff while I start driving back home. I drive back home, love on her and the kids for a little bit, and then go to the airport in the morning and head to Detroit, not knowing when I'm going to be coming back because I'm just filming, right? And so, you know, spent a couple months up there, came home, went over to the UK, did some filming over there, came back, and I was like, all right, cool. So,
dang, this wasn't like a small gig. This wasn't like, hey, this one scene, we need you to stand in.
No, I ended up actually helping, doing some advising for Michael Bay with the stunt guys and the tactics and everything else like that. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, he's a brilliant human being. So that happens that summer, and then it goes back to like no work. And I was like, well, man, I need to get some more income coming in, and you know, need to get paid on this and trying to figure stuff out. I was teaching shooting, helping out on ranges when I could. Like, I had a buddy reach out. He's like, hey, man, I need an extra guy on the range at, you know, $300 a day. I'm like, done. What do you need? You know, like, and which is, you know, good money, you know, especially if you're just sitting on the range helping out. And I was just whatever I could do to help. And then I was constantly reaching out to Jocko a lot. You know, I was just reaching out to Jocko and, you know, just saying, hey, if there's anything you need help with, let me know, like anything I can do, you know. And I text him, like, I know the mentor doesn't seek out the mentee. That's why I'm reaching out to you. And he's like, just, you know, make sure you're reading the book, listen to the podcast. And I'm like, done. What else? I was like, can I help sell your gigs? I'm like, bro, like, you know, whatever I can do. He's like, no, we're kind of good there. And then it came to the point where he replied back to me and he's like, hey, we're getting to the point where we're actually having to turn down gigs because Leif and I are so busy. We probably might need to bring somebody else on board. We have this event in San Diego. Here's the dates. Can you be there? Just to come check out what we have going on. And I replied back to him. And I said, well, let me check. I'm like, you know, I'm actually teaching shooting and then supposed to be leaving for this other gig overseas. That gig overseas was legit. It was 70 days in a row at $1,000 a day.
Oh, damn.
My family had zero money.
Right.
There was times we literally were negative. And at this time, I remember we had like, it was like 17 cents in the account one day, I remember. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm calling guys that I work for. I'm like, hey, you still owe me money. Like, I'm not trying to collect on a friend, but I'm also a friend that helped you out. Like, can you please pay me the money you owe me? And then I'd get some money in, or, you know, they'd transfer money for the payments, or they'd send me a check, and I would literally drive an hour to the Navy Federal Bank so it could go directly into it. Or I'd drive to their bank, cash it, and then go to my bank and put it in there. Just, because we didn't have, we were hurting financially because of bad mistakes that I had made. I left that company on an emotional decision. I wasn't logical. I didn't plan it out. I didn't have my plan, you know? And so Jocko says that, and I'm like, he's like, hey, I would never tell you not to do something that would take money from your family. He goes, plus with us, nothing's guaranteed. Like, I don't know, you know? He's like, you might have one gig, you might have 52 gigs next year. I don't know. But if you are able to come out and see what we're doing and, you know, meet Jamie and, you know, talk with Leif and come up with a game plan, you know, let me know. And I remember I called Amanda and I called another guy who was like this friend of mine, but I also looked up to him as like a mentor. He's pretty successful. And they both were like, you know what you need to do. And especially Amanda, my wife, is like, Jocko and Leif will never screw you over.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah. Is it because of where you've been with Jocko and Leif?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, loyalty above all.
Right.
Like, I don't care. I'm with Jocko and Leif until the day I die. And I've had some ridiculous offers from companies that were our clients that tried to bring me like, hey man, come on board with us full time. I'm like, what's the chance? I'm like, 0. Don't ever ask me that again. Or you won't be my client ever again. Like, that's not worth it, right? There's no amount of money that would ever cause me disloyalty to Jocko and Leif. Not going to happen.
Right.
Like, and when people offer that, it makes me mad.
Right.
It makes me really mad because I'm like, do you not understand that? Clearly you don't. But okay, that's fine. And, because, that's on me because I haven't made that very well known to people. And so anyways, it was because of that loyalty that I knew what I would have from them.
Right.
And I called my buddy, Steve Ariam, a great guy, an amazing shooting instructor with his company. And I was like, hey, I know I'm supposed to be out here these days. Jocko wants me out here for this, to see what they're doing. It's an opportunity to work with him. He's like, I'll get you covered. He goes, that's amazing. I was like, are you sure? Am I putting you in a hard spot? He goes, yeah. He's like, you're not putting me in a hard spot. He's like, just, and now I'm going to have to pay someone else's travel. I'm like, take it out of my travel. Like, don't pay me travel, like get somebody out there. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, dude, business is business. Like, I'm not trying to hurt your business. Yeah. You're helping me and you're my friend. And so I made my way out there using points, I had no money. I was like trying to figure out like, where am I going to stay?
Right.
And then, but when I committed that I was going out there, Jocko was like, cool, hey, we're going to put you up at a hotel at the venue. I'm like, oh, thank God. No, if I can just get to the hotel, I'll be good. Humans don't need food for 3 to 4 days.
I was going to say, do we get the bagels in the morning, though? Bagels and cereal?
So Jamie, our director of operations, we always laugh at all the musters because that first muster, I go into the team room to meet everybody, and it's all these like swag bags that we're giving people. And it's like all these like, beef jerky and protein bars and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like,
kind of hungry.
Packing my own bags, right? No, and I did. And like, I was like, well, are we allowed to have any of this? I don't want any. She's like, oh yeah, this is our stuff that we can take from. I'm like, cool. I packed like my own bag. I'm like, this
the
is
Michael Irvin cookie story.
Yeah. I was like, this is my 3 days of food, right? And, also, I was like, man, as long as I have water, I'll just fast while I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
I need a cleanse anyways.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy for the opportunity. Did the muster. Jocko had me on his podcast right afterwards. And, I told him, I was like, I'm all in. I'm 100% all in. Whatever you and Leif need, I'm in. And that started the process.
Right.
And it was crazy.
It's a common theme I keep, and I'm sure you guys are thinking this too, as you're telling us your story, like you don't wait to figure things. Like, you just go, I'll figure it out on the way. Like, I'm just going to get to work and things will take care of themselves. And that's a mentality that I struggle with. I'm the guy that has to analyze and figure it all out. So listen to your story is
really
awesome.
Smart. Really smart people.
Brother,
hey,
how many times have I said that? Like, the hardest guy to play with in the NFL is the dude who's too damn smart.
Yeah,
because he won't react.
Yeah,
he's going to overprocess.
So they get stuck in the OODA loop.
Yes.
Right? They never get to the A of the OODA loop. They never act. They're like, observe, orient, decide. Wait, hold on, this changed. I need to orientate myself again and decide. Nope, boom, 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 boom. No, act. Just act, right? Yeah. And one thing that you could do to help you, because we'd have guys in the SEAL teams do that. We were putting through training. We would put them in situations where we told them, I don't care what you do, just do something. And when they would do it, we would show them, look, nothing bad happened. So what you could probably do is find times in your life where you just need to quickly analyze and say, is this going to be catastrophic to my life, my health, my business, my family? No, just go and just act. And when you do something and then you realize,
wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Okay, cool. And over time, you can actually... You can desensitize yourself to the fear of acting, to where acting just becomes more of a habit.
That's good, man. Yeah.
It takes time. It takes repetition.
Round table.
Yeah. You're coming back, man.
You're coming back.
Let's do it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pause the story, but yeah.
No.
Okay, so you start working with Jocko. When did it start? Or
Yeah, I was just going to say that first time, did you actually get up and speak?
No, I was just there to observe.
Okay.
I was just there to listen and see what they were doing and see if I wanted to be a part of it.
Okay.
Just to say, hey, look, you're going to be on stages in front of people.
Yeah. So what made you want to be involved? What was it that you saw that first day?
When I try not to get emotional on this one. When I saw how they were honoring our brothers, and not just the SEALs that we lost, but the Marines and soldiers that we served with that were killed in Ramadi. You know, when we deployed to Ramadi, 98 soldiers, Marines, and SEALs were killed. Over 500 were wounded. And, you know, those Marines and those soldiers were our brothers. And when I saw how they were sharing the lessons that we learned to help make people's lives better, I mean, come on, I'm all in.
Right.
Plus, I had read Extreme Ownership when my wife and I, we were divorced, right? So we were completely divorced. And then I read Extreme Ownership, and I used those principles to help get our marriage back. So I know they work.
Right.
You know? And so you go from being completely divorced, like living separate, everything, you know, exchanging kids on certain days and times, to being able to rejoin your family. Like that's a rare thing.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to stop you on that, because I want to say this. Ben bought the book for me, Extreme Ownership.
That's what I ever read.
Absolutely. And it spoke directly to me. Even the first, you know, chapter when Leif is in his situation, man, it has you hooked.
Yep.
And it brings you in, and it speaks directly to life. Like, it's not just, you know, it's everyone's situation.
And that's what it was, is I read the book, like you said, it applied to my situation. Obviously, I was a part of that deployment that they talk about, but that book, just the way they broke it down was incredible. And their second book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, is better. Because I've got copies I'll bring to you guys next time. But The Dichotomy of Leadership breaks down the different aspects of life that we go through that we have to actually find balance on, and how when we get out of balance, it ruins our life. And I had gotten out of balance. That's why my marriage fell apart. And so when I was able to read the book and actually apply the principles and actually take ownership of my life, it was actually very liberating, because I recognized, oh, you know what? All the things that went wrong in my life, if I truly believe that they are my fault, if I truly believe that, then I can actually fix it.
Right.
You know, so let's say we're meeting up and you're late, and I truly believe that that's my fault. But you're late, right? You physically are late. But I truly believe that it's my fault, because I actually didn't have a good conversation with you. But hey, man, I know this is what the map is going to say.
That's right.
I'm telling you, about halfway through your drive, the traffic gets nasty. If you leave 15 minutes early, you'll pass all that traffic. And here's another alternative route that you can take. Boom. If I just did that, then I can actually help take ownership of your situation for our meeting.
Right.
Because if you're late to our meeting, then that is my fault.
Right.
Because I didn't give you the information ahead of time.
Did you hear that, Ben?
Let's say, Tyler, it's my fault. You're always late, dude.
It's your fault I show up at 3 o'clock for our 3 o'clock podcast.
Hey, if you're on time, you're late.
That's right. That's right.
But you know, so it was that, and then seeing the impact that they had with all these people, it was just, you know, I knew I wanted to be a part of that. It was that sense of fulfillment, and I was like, this is my next mission, right? I was like, this is amazing. And since I've been a part of the team, I've just, the impact that I've been able to be a part of is just incredible. I mean, I have, you know, friends who are their clients and are now friends of mine that have lost over 100 pounds because of the book and because of our friendship relationship of me, you know, helping them make little tweaks here and there. I've been able to meet some of the most amazing people. The fact that I'm sitting here is ridiculous. You know, like when I sent your information to my buddies, the fact that they were like, what, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just the opportunities that have come has just been incredible. And it is partially because of, I know that they'll always have my back and I'll always have their back, and I'm forever indebted to them. And I always tell them that. And it's, you know, typical Jocko and Leif. They're like, brother, you don't owe us anything. We owe you. And I'm like, I don't think so. But cool story. Like, we'll go with that. You know, and that's just the thing is an opportunity to serve again.
Right.
It's to be able to help people not make the same mistakes I made. I can tell you a lot of ways not to do things in life. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm fortunate to be surrounded by people who have helped me learn from those mistakes and translate those mistakes into lessons learned so that other people don't.
That's right.
I mean, because here's the deal. In life, you win or you lose. There's no option. I hate when people say, and if you guys say it, I apologize, but I don't like when people say, you win or you learn. You never lose. No, that's not the case. You lose. You have winners and you have losers. Now, whether you decide to learn from your wins and your losses is 100% up to you. There's always a score. There's a score in everything.
That's absolutely.
My kids, we picked them up from, we do like Awanas every Wednesday night. And so the other night they got their little cars. They do these little racetrack deal. And my daughter's talking and she's like, yeah, no, so it's great. So the winners get a trophy and the other ones just get ribbons.
Right.
And this is why I love my wife. She goes, no, you're not taking a ribbon home. If you lose, you lose. Like, if either you win or you don't. And I was like, gosh, baby, you're so sexy right now. I love you so much.
I got something for you tonight.
That's so
and that's why I love my wife and I have been able to instill that into our kids as well. They do jiu-jitsu also. And, man, I've got this picture. If you guys remind me, I'll send it to you guys. You'll love it. Our daughters and our son, Aiden, they do their first jiu-jitsu tournament. Aiden gets destroyed. And he has just the biggest smile on his face because he was loving the opportunity, right? Because he was working hard, right? He's just working so hard. That's just who he is, right? And for him to even be able to do jiu-jitsu and wrestling based off of the the physical disabilities that he's had his whole life and in physical therapy and all these other things, like, again, we can get into this all another time. Like his when I...
All right, man. Take your time.
When I text my best friend Steven and a group of our friends and Tyler and all those guys, I said, hey, Aiden just won his first wrestling match, 12-2. Steven texts me outside the group text. He goes, bro, I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes because I've seen what that boy has overcome. Everyone always told him, you'll never play sports. You'll never be able to do this. And we got him in jiu-jitsu, and we've always never listened to anybody else that told him all that stuff. And we're like, no, that's not the case, right? And to see what he's been able to do is incredible. And his last match, he lost all three. You know what? He fought his ass off all three matches, And tonight he has one again, right? And he's super fired up about it. And it's just cool to see what he's been able to do. And then you have the other aspect where one of my daughters, Nola, she loses. And she's just looking over at the kid like this. His hand's being raised, hers isn't, and she is upset. Losing, she hates more than winning, right? And then her twin, Cora, won all the matches, beat these boys down, like 17-0, like 15-0 type of wins. And so she wins gold, and she's just like, she loves winning. Ola hates losing. They're twins. It's funny. We go to another tournament. Cora loses, and she gets fourth place, and they try to pull her up there for pictures and give her a medal. And she's like, no, I didn't. No, it's first, second, third. And they're like, no, come on. So she just goes up there. They do the picture, and she's like, like just Jocko, no emotion type of face, upset, had like tears in her eyes. Her face is all red because she's mad. And they get done with the picture, and she takes it off and gives back the medal and goes, I didn't deserve that, and walks over to me. And I'm like,
yes, sir.
Yes. So just seeing that within the kids has been really cool.
That's awesome, man.
We could go for hours. We know you got to go. Tell us a little bit, and we'll talk more about your story next time. Tell us about Echelon Front, what the mission is, so for our listeners, and then we got one more final question.
So the mission at Echelon Front, to simplify it, is just to share the lessons that we learned in combat and in training so that you can apply those same lessons to your life. And we say that they're leadership lessons. And one of the things that we've been getting better at Echelon Front is explaining that leadership is not a title. If you have the ability to influence others to do stuff, you're a leader. So with that being the case and that being true, everybody that's listening to this podcast is a leader. And so we share the lessons that we learned in combat and training so that you can better yourself as a human to lead your teams, your families, your business, whatever you're doing, just to lead them to victory. And whatever your victory is, that's what you need to be shooting for. And so that's what we help facilitate.
And if you're a CEO or someone that runs an organization, I don't care if you're a young entrepreneur.
Marketing, whatever. HR.
I'll speak
for
HR.
Yeah. Probably dance that line sometimes.
All right. But whoever you are and you're looking to grow in your business, if you're not reading Extreme Ownership, brother, you're doing yourself a disservice, man. So I'm recommending anyone that's listening right now, pick up Extreme Ownership, and then it's Dichotomy of Leadership as well.
And Echelon Front, you guys do trainings.
So we do keynotes, and we also do everything virtual right now as well.
Yeah.
We do everything virtual except for the hands-on experiential leadership training that I run. That has to be in person, right? It's hands-on training, and so. We do any and every type of leadership training and consulting that companies need. We do keynotes, half-day workshops, full-day workshops. We have long-range development training programs that we design to actually align our leadership principles with the company's goals and mission for success. The hands-on training that we do, it's the field training exercises. It's all the same leadership principles that we taught in the SEAL teams to prepare guys to lead overseas. And now we do it in person with you. We put you in stressful situations, and it's pretty cool. So we have that for corporates, and we just opened it up for individuals. And the one here in DFW, it's actually in like 10 days sold out already. I mean, it sold out quick.
That's awesome.
Where an individual or a small group can come, and it's 2 full days of hands-on, scenario-based leadership training, working with Jocko, Leif, myself, and other instructors, and you're running capture kill missions against my role players. Right. And all the scenarios are designed to dictate and teach the principles that we teach at Echelon Front real time, so that you can feel the burden of leadership, you can feel communication, you can feel the failures and the successes of leadership.
Yeah. You're in love, aren't you, man?
Dude, it's the best job in the world.
Yeah.
Besides being a SEAL.
Man. Yeah.
It's the second best.
Yeah. 2 final questions before we get there. The debrief podcast that Jocko does,
it's ridiculous.
Is some of the best content you can possibly consume.
Yes.
I've sent you a few of those. It's amazing. The debrief pod, and what they're speaking on is the situations you guys face at Echelon Front.
Yes.
Yeah. So, first question: what's the best piece of advice Jocko's ever given you?
The best piece of advice Jocko's ever given me was to actually step up, be more aggressive, and lead. When he told me that he needed me to be a more aggressive leader, not aggressive as like towards humans, but just be more aggressive to solve problems. Maybe that's why, as you're saying, you're always action. When Jocko pulled me aside when I was 22 years old, we're in the middle of the desert doing these training runs. He goes, "Hey, when we get back from this training, I need you to put JP on your helmet in big bold letters on tape or something." He goes, "I always need to know where you're at so that I can find you to help you solve problems." He goes, "I need you to be my go-to guy." And so he empowered me. He empowered me with belief, and he also empowered me by giving me ownership. And so if you want somebody on your team to take ownership, you actually, you have to be taking ownership yourself, but you actually have to give people permission to take ownership, because a lot of people are hesitant to do that.
Right.
And so when Jocko told me to be more aggressive for solving problems, for leading, and just to take ownership, that was probably the most impactful thing.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's great.
That's good. All right, final question. If you could go back to any point in your life and tell yourself one thing, doesn't necessarily mean you go change anything, but if you could just go tell yourself one thing, where do you go and what do you tell yourself?
That's a really good question. I mean, because as you say it, you're flooding through all these things, and it's like, hey, do you say something or do something to keep your brothers from dying? Yeah, that would, if I could do anything to keep all these guys alive that are on my wrist, then that's what I would do in a heartbeat. But we can't do that. And so if we take that out of the equation, it would be, to just be more disciplined, because it's true, like Jocko says, discipline equals freedom. And the more disciplined you are in all aspects of your life, the more freedom that you're going to have. So I think if I would have been more disciplined as a younger kid, as a young man, I would have had a much better impact in life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Can't end it any better way than that.
And we appreciate the time that you spent with us, man. This was absolute gold. We loved it. This is
definitely
we got to have
on.
you back.
Yeah.
Got to have you
I'm
back.
not far, so I'm, Figure out
And Ben and I,
whatever aligns with you guys.
Darren's a little too old and brittle, but Ben and I, we got to get in. We got to get in and roll around with you.
Yeah, I've got my 4-year-old son doing jiu-jitsu because of you guys,
That's
because
good.
of Joe Rogan, that type.
Yeah.
I've never done it. I never did martial arts growing up, but
Yeah.
man, it's unbelievable for him. He absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll definitely do that for
yeah,
sure.
man. Great.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you, man, and best of luck to your son tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I love
go
the fact
get
when you
it.
came in
Go
today,
get
the
it.
first thing you said.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you said, JP, when you walked into the door? I got a wrestling match. I got to
tonight.
be at today. Yeah. That's awesome, man. We appreciate you, brother.
thank you.
We'll be seeing you again.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.